So Donald Trump and Elon Musk tell you exactly who they are every single day. Trump wants to cut your money, Musk wants to control your money, and they both want to steal your money to enrich themselves and their billionaire buddies. That's the subject of today's video, and check out this tweet by Elon Musk on January 27th. This is awesome, and it's basically a picture of Donald Trump dressed as a gangster. The sign reads FAFO, or F around and find out. And that's sort of how they're treating their leadership positions in government. They're just effing around and figuring out what's going on. We have a lot of chaos, and again, they tell you exactly who they are. Musk is coming out also January 27th, talking about meds all the time. There's always been reports that he does a lot of recreational stuff as well as meds to keep make sure that he's always smiling. On top of that, you got Musk tweeting out and bragging about being reckless. He says this 12 hours ago. I am just talking. Look at me. Wow, amazing. Can you believe it? I can talk without a teleprompter. That's crazy. And I want you to understand why it's reckless, right? And I get Musk's point of view is like, hey, I'm just having conversations here, right? The problem is that these guys, both Trump and Musk, like to give you a bunch of promises that they can't keep. And I'll put it more in perspective of like, your experience, say, at work. Could you imagine if your boss says, okay, I'm gonna, offer you a raise and a promotion. We're gonna triple your salary. Just come to my office tomorrow at lunch, and we'll have lunch, and we'll talk about, all the ways that we're gonna triple your salary. And so, you're pretty excited about that, right? It's awesome when your boss tells you your salary is gonna triple. You go, the next day and go to the meeting, and then your boss is like, "I never said that," and you're just like, "Wait, what? No, you told me yesterday, and you even sent me a text. I have the text right here." And your boss is like, "Well, that's fake news. You're just lying. And if you don't shut up, I'm going to fire you," right? That's sort of how these Trumps and Musk work, right? If you call them out on stuff they said in the past, they get angry, they blame the media, right? They make all these promises they can't keep, and they basically just gaslight you. Unfortunately, this is sort of where we are, and I was thinking about this just yesterday. Is the way I think about leadership, be it companies, be it in government, is I think about streetlights. And so why I mentioned streetlights. If streetlights work, right? Green is go, red is stop. You go about your day and you don't really think about them that much. When streetlights don't work, you start thinking like, what the heck is going on, right? Or imagine if the streetlight's like completely chaotic. It doesn't make any sense and like changes your color at like, every 10 seconds. Like it makes it hard to function. You can't even drive. And that's essentially what they're doing with the government right now. It's just doesn't function. It's completely chaotic. And again, you want leadership that you don't really think about. It's just there. It just does its job. It's not like the main show. Green is go, red is stop, and it's like, okay, you need to go about your life. But unfortunately, our streetlights are all chaotic right now. These are the headlines today. Officials scramble to interpret White House pause on federal financial assistance programs. Basically, they put out this memo sent out to several agencies in the federal government, and very few people know what to make of this thing. And this affects veterans, the elderly, children, people who are most vulnerable, right, who need services. It's any number of things, like it's so much. And they're putting a pause to all this. I think the numbers, it's crazy amount of money. We're talking about like maybe $3 trillion on pause. And it's like, again, it's stuff that people need. Now, they're claiming that they're not going to cut your Social Security or Medicaid, but they have kind of ways to get around it. And what I mean by that is they'll cut or pause services that you need, right? So maybe just for example, maybe you'll get your Medicaid, payment or whatever, but maybe then your school lunches for your kids, right? Maybe those will get cut, or maybe your veteran hospital, like maybe they'll change the hours on you and it's like, oh, we're only going to work 3 days a week or whatever, right? I'm just giving examples. There's any number of things that they're changing, and right now, because the government, you just want the government to function like normal, right? But right now, all these employees are like, I don't know what to make of this stuff. And that was the news. It's like just chaos. They sent this memo that's vague. They do that kind of stuff, and that's why I was saying like when Musk talks without teleprompter, and you're in a position of power, you're either like just saying a bunch of nonsense or you're making promises that you can't keep. On top of that, Musk over at X, they just made some sort of deal with Visa. So they're going to try to, do a banking system run his X platform, payment system, these kind of things. I'm sure they're going to have crypto, etc. And I'm not going to be surprised. I'll tell you this before, and I've told you, I'm telling you now, I'm not going to be surprised if they'll say, hey, what if you could get all of your, Social Security payments and your military benefits and all these things. What if you get it all through X? Because X is awesome, right? They basically want to try to privatize stuff, that kind of stuff. And the issue is that when you move fast and break things, that's sort of the tech bro culture. It breaks. Like you can't just have half finished and half-assed products put out there on services and things that people need, right? But that's sort of what they're going for here. On top of that, Musk wants to get rid of all sort of regulations. And when you're dealing with people's money, right, you do want to have oversight and regulations on this stuff because, again, it's stuff that people need. You get these kind of headlines where Trump is trying to roll back basically civil rights era laws. There's been all sorts of lawsuits on the table right now because people are like, dude, you're breaking too many promises. They're breaking decisions that we've already made. I guess there's 4 lawsuits on the table on this thing. It is all happening so quickly. There's so much chaos out there. So I'm trying my best to explain it all to you. Like, for example, here, headline, nonprofits, health groups sue over Trump's freeze or grants and loans. The other party, opposition party, so the Democrats are trying to oppose these things. I guess we're talking about $3 trillion. This was a statement. Says here, last night, President Trump plunged the country into chaos without a shred of warning. That's coming from Chuck Schumer. It is a dagger to the heart of average American families in red states and blue states, in cities, suburbs, and rural areas. It's just outrageous. Guys, it affects all kinds of stuff, right? It affects schools, roads, like I said, all kinds of services that people need. It's really to the most vulnerable. So, be it children, military veterans, elderly, etc. On top of that, and it's honestly it's hard for me to go through all this stuff all the time because it's so obvious, the corruption. It's all public, and this would normally be a massive scandal when I'm talking about, say, like Trump's meme coin thing. He's got this crypto coin thing. I guess it's down 64% from the high. What is it? It was just like a public pump and dump. Like the president of the United States is like doing a public pump and dump on a crypto coin. That's where the U.S. is now culturally. That this isn't even a big scandal because he's got so many scandals and the guy's already a felon, and theoretically he has, I say theoretically, has immunity. Who knows? Because they're going to get sued up the wazoo. If you don't know, Musk is trying to cut as many government regulators as possible so they can just have free reign and oligarchies all day, every day, monopolies as far as the eye can see. And so when Musk brags about doing his super payments app, this kind of stuff, the reason why we don't necessarily have those kind of apps or these kind of companies in USA is because they're illegal. We have monopoly laws, right? Let's hope we do still. You don't necessarily want one company to control everything, right? You also want competition. You want bids on contracts. You want the way that you hire people to be fair. So, for example, this is the headline here. Elon Musk DOGE is now hiring, right? They want people to work long hours to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. The way that they did their website, and it was very interesting, they're already in question if it's legal or not. I'll just say it. I think it's probably illegal. Is because when you post a federal job, you got to post like the requirements of the job, right? The skills you need, the education you need, what's the pay of the job going to be, where the location of the job, what's the hours, all this kind of stuff. And this is and then we're not even sure, like, are these going to be federal employees or not? Are they going to have to disclose everything about this stuff, all their communications, have to keep records? And my understanding is the way that the Musk and stuff they're trying to do over at DOGE is, again, trying to cut all the service that you need. They're all using like these apps that are, quote, private / secure. Basically, they're not being transparent. All these things really matter because the way that you do things in those systems that we have in place and the stuff that they want to cut is to try to create transparency and fairness. But they're trying to just like get rid of that as much as possible. Move fast, break things, and make sure don't question us. On top of that, and I want to get into this payment apps thing. This is probably going to be secondary news to Trump, cutting all of this federal funding for stuff that we need. I think Musk is really pushing hard to move away from Tesla and do this whole X thing and the money stuff. I think they have like 41 licenses or something like that. Yeah, it says for over a year, Musk has been applying for these licenses for X. This has to do with their payments thing. According to the website, X Payments LLC is licensed in 41 states and registered with Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So I laugh about the financial crime stuff because one of the issues of like if you're removing regulators, for example, let's say you just completely get rid of the financial crime network. That means you can have money laundering up the wazoo, right? That's what we're going at. That's what we're getting at with this stuff. On top of that, and guys, I know it's a lot of things. You're going to have a constitutional crisis if they keep pausing all this funding of stuff that Congress had approved. Trump has done this stuff before. Like, basically the way it works is like, okay, I'm not going to, fund stuff that Congress has approved unless there's something in it for me, right? That's sort of like the way a gangster behaves. They're always trying to, skim off the top. It's kind of like the guys that, walk around the neighborhood and go to the local stores and they'd be like, it'd be a real shame if someone, broke your window, or it'd be a real shame if something happened to your family. And if you want protection, right, you're looking at 10%. Like that's kind of how these guys are operating. They're trying to figure out like ways they can benefit off the system. And frankly, it's disgusting. I'll just be perfectly frank. It's disgusting. And they're really trying to push the envelope of how much power they can seize. That's what this is all about. If you haven't seen this movie, please do. I keep mentioning it, I keep recommending it. It's called The Apprentice. It's about the early days of Trump. It sort of goes into how he started to become a gangster, and you got to see it. Even though the stuff we see today, it's all public, as I mentioned before, just see how he got to this point, and it'll make sense. Essentially, Trump is a slumlord, and Elon Musk is a used car salesman, and you put together, that's the top. And there's that. Also see this movie, 1987. I know it's a Korean movie, and some people don't watch foreign movies, but please watch if you can, because it shows sort of like what it's like to have the gangsters in power from the inside look, how they try to cover up things, and how regular people can fight back. Here in Korea, it's a very, very different history than the USA because the Koreans went through that kind of stuff. Say, so I mentioned in 1987. They've actually arrested President Yoon. Now they're indicting him for insurrection. The penalty is actually quite stiff. It'll many, many, many years in prison, or they can even see capital punishment. That's possible. Regarding the Trump thing, it's completely opposite. Trump is firing a bunch of DOJ people, right, Department of Justice. So Trump's point of view is like, if you ever investigate a crime that related to me, then you're fired, right? You're all corrupt. But it's like they were just doing their job, right? If someone causes an insurrection, like it's like our responsibility to investigate said things, and that's why I was comparing the Korean case, sort of why the Koreans arrested and now are indicting President Yoon for insurrection, and then the difference in Trump, where he convinces all these people that it's cool to be a gangster, right? Musk is tweeting out like proudly, "Hey, we're gangsters," and now firing people in the Justice Department. So understand when they complain about regulations, when they complain about the news and stuff like that, they basically are complaining about anything that checks their power. And that's why I'm going over this stuff with you. On top of that, you have to understand sort of like how these people think or don't think, and sort of, the audience that they're trying to appeal to. So let me give you an example. This is in LA. This is the headline today. California burn scars bring risk of mudslides, right? So if you watch the interaction I did a couple videos ago between Mayor Bass in LA and Trump, the residents, they want to get back to the homes. They want to, try to clean up the area, which I completely understand. Even Mary Bass was like, hey, your safety is first and foremost, and we're worried about the rain, right? Mudslides are a real concern, guys. On top of that, you're going to have, the area is going to be toxic. There could be gas leaks anywhere. Or, for example, and it's happened because I saw pictures and saw a video, some Tesla cars or electric cars or gasoline or whatever melted during the fires. And so it's dangerous. So you got to do cleanup. You got to make sure the roads are clear. On top of that, you want to make sure that there's no looting. So, for example, sometimes residents will complain that they can't back to their home, and they'll get to the checkpoint because there is a checkpoint. There's security there, right? So, police/military are there, and they'll say, "Hey, I just need to go to my home. My home is just down the road a mile." And they're just like, "Hey, you got to go get a badge. Basically show all the proper documents and ensure that you are indeed a resident of said address." The person's like, "Well, I don't want to go wait in line 3 hours. I don't want to. My house is just right there." But the reason why you have these kind of systems in place, the reason why you want to be careful with this stuff is because you're trying to protect people the same way that stoplights and streetlights are. So I understand there's some people out there that hate streetlights, right? They want to live in a world where everything's chaotic and whoever drives the biggest Cybertruck and, crashes through and gets what they want, that's the world that they want. But, I see things a little bit differently. Again, I don't want to think about the streetlights. I just want them to function properly. And that gets us to our markets where we had crazy crashes yesterday where it really how can I say, put a hole in the ship or the thesis of what Wall Street's been selling the last, year or so, but that AI is going to solve everyone's problems. What it was this Chinese deep sea came out, and it came in cheaper and basically, how can I use a lot less energy than what the Americans are doing. And it seems like, oh my God, are we wasting like 95% of our investments on this stuff that maybe we don't even really need? That's this AI thing. So the way the Trumps and the Musks are going to sell it to you is, guys, in order to solve all of our problems, we got to cut as many programs as we possibly can. And get this, we're going to save money in the government by hiring a bunch of robots to make all the decisions for you. And so, like, just think about this. What's happening? It's on twofold. One, a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs. Two, they're going to put in this AI technology that doesn't work, so it's going to be completely inefficient. Three, they're going to figure out a way to, take all that money, give it to themselves and their buddies, and they'll just keep making all these promises that they can't keep of how awesome AI is going to be. And four, a lot of people are going to get hurt. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or otherwise. On top of that, you're hearing a lot of really ugly stuff happening with the deportations. I'll just tell you, I was been tracking this story. I don't, how can I say? I don't talk about every single detail of every single thing happening, but there's a couple ones that really caught my eye. So one was schools are now trying to protect people, right? That was one. Another one was churches. And then I've been hearing of arrests. This just came out yesterday. I guess Navajo people are being arrested or detained is a better right word to say it. Indigenous people. I think there was like 15 of this. Let me read the description of it. And I just want to say this is the chaos that we have. So Nygren advised Navajo, right? I mean, there's certain things that just, if you understand the history of America, right, when we talk about vulnerable people, don't mess with the Native Americans. That's my opinion. Indigenous people, don't mess with them. Don't mess with the Navajo. Nygren advised Navajo people to carry state-issued identification such as driver's license, other picture identification, or their certificate of Indian blood. It's best to be prepared. Having your state ID is crucial. If you possess a CIB, it can provide an additional layer of reassurance, right? They're warning people like you got to like bring all your documents with you all the time because you don't know if you might get detained. That came alongside reports of at least 15 indigenous people in Arizona and New Mexico having reported being stopped at their homes and workplaces, questioned or detained by federal law enforcement, and asked to produce proof of citizenship during immigration raids that began last week. So, and there's any number of stories about this. I just mentioned the Navajo one because you don't hear about that kind of stuff very often, and for good reason, right? The same way, like, you don't hear about, say, streetlights breaking down nonstop because for good reason. You want these things to work, and I just don't want people to just. There's certain groups of people this please don't mess with. On top of that, you're having workers worried about their future, be it at Google. It says here, Google employees petition for job security ahead of expected cuts, which I completely understand. Wall Street wants to push those profits, right? Cut as many people as you possibly can. On top of that, Whole Foods wants to unionize, but that may or may not do anything for them because, if you're the Trumps and the Musks, they're the CEO class, the billionaire class. They hate workers, they hate unions. They want to pay you as little as possible. They don't want you to have any rights, these kind of stuff. And so, that's why they want to cut as many regulators as humanly possible. Their solution is going to be, again, to all the companies and the world's problems is we just need more robots to do the jobs for us and make all the decisions. And just trust us, bro. Give us all the money. We're going to be awesome. This technology is going to save everything. And that's sort of what our markets have been driving on. And that's why when we talked about the China deep sink, which exposed these American billionaire class that want to pour this money into AI, is maybe, hey, it might be over bloated, not efficient, and basically just put in place to scam people and enrich yourselves. So I know we talk a lot on this channel. I'm a bit frustrated today, especially hearing about the Navajo thing really pissed me off, let's be perfectly frank. And then now we're hearing about, cutting services to veterans, to children that need things, to elderly. It's the people who are the most vulnerable. So I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on this stuff. I do appreciate watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.